Hello everyone and welcome to the Havana tournament of 1965, which is basically the Capablanca Memorial Tournament. We've already covered a few games. Mostly I'm going to be covering the games that do not end in a draw. So first Fischer started with 2 wins, then he got 2 draws, then that victory against Ringov that we've seen a few videos back. Then he got 2 draws, and now he's facing a very strong grandmaster, Laszlo Szabo, who is one of the first grandmasters. He actually got his grandmaster title in 1950 as soon as FIDE introduced the title. Before you only had masters, there was no grandmaster title, but he's one of the first to receive it, and he's been playing chess pretty much forever. He worked as a banker even before World War II, and he started winning some great games even on the international scene. But then, during the outbreak of the World War II, he was captured and he was held, and only continued his chess career upon the end of the World War II. Now, this was played in 1965, and already he was quite a beast. Then his very best performance ever is considered at this tournament here, which is the 1956 Candidates tournament that was played in Amsterdam. As you can see, Szabo finished in third place, or basically in those days you didn't have third place, you had like shared third. So he got shared third with Boris Spassky, Tigran Petrosian, David Bronstein, Efim Geller. I mean, those are incredible names, and you can see that the entire tournament is filled only with incredible names: Miroslav Filip, Oskar Pano, Herman Pilny. Paul Keres, of course, the eternal second, got second place, and the tournament was won by none other than Vasily Smyslov. But yeah, as you can see, he is a very strong player, and here he faces another very strong player, which is, of course, Bobby Fischer. So let's check it out. They play a line that's played pretty much even today, and you guys will recognize it. But then Szabo will make not a mistake or anything. He will just make two slight, not even inaccuracies. He will just not make the absolute top engine move, and Fischer will punish that well, like you haven't seen. So let's check it out. We have pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and of course bishop to b5. Fischer always went for the Rui Lopez. Pawn to a6, Morphy's defense. We have bishop to a4, and now knight to f6. We have castles and bishop to e7. So all been played before, nothing new here. Rook to e1, b5, bishop to b3, and castles. We have pawn to c3, pawn to d6, and this is still the top played line even today. So here we have pawn to h3, stopping the development of the bishop to g4, and now bishop to e6. This is quite a rare move. In those days, okay, it was played. Nowadays, you will see a lot more of knight to a5. This is the standard approach. You attack the bishop moves, then you play c5, then white plays d4, and so on. So this is basically the main line where you have to decide whether you want to go queen to c7 or knight to d7. Very nice line. Also, you could consider, instead of that, just going for knight to b8. This is the Breyer variation, and also you will shift your knight to d7. You will play c5, and so on. You could also play bishop to b7. So these are all top moves that are being played today. But here, Szabo played bishop to e6, and it's not that it's uncommon today. For example, Mamedyarov played it against Grishuk, Adams played it against Vishwanathan Anand, Hare Krishna played it against Naroditsky. Not once did Black actually win the game in modern times, but in those days they did play it. So okay, pawn to d4. Fischer continues with a very principled move, grabs the full center, threatens d5 to win material. So bishop captures on b3, a captures, and now e captures on d4. We have c captures, and now again, it's a known position even today. d5 is considered strongest. Knight to b4 we have here. Fischer claims the d5 square for himself, and now knight to d7, as the e5 and c5 squares have been vacated as soon as Fischer pushed d5. Knight to a3, trying to challenge the knight on b4 with knight to c2, and here again there is one game where c5 was played, but here we have bishop to f6, and it is now, as of move 14, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Fischer continues this. We have knight to c2, challenging the knight on b4, and just pawn to c5. This allows Fischer to double Szabo's pawns, but does he really want to do it? Yes, he does. He plays knight captures on b4, c captures, and now knight to d4. An excellent central square for the knight, where you are controlling a whole lot of squares in your opponent's half of the board. So Szabo decides to give up the bishop for knight here, and it is in fact the proper thing to do. This knight here is just a monster, and if it comes to f5, well, it's just not going to be pretty. So bishop captures, queen captures. You will see in a lot of Bobby Fischer's games, even when he's playing against the absolute top competition, that somehow he always manages to centralize his queen, and there is no piece more powerful than a centralized queen. So queen to d4, we have pawn to a5, and now comes bishop to f4. Just nicely continuing development with tempo as the d6 pawn is undefended. So knight to c5, and now rook e3. Defending and attacking, you want to play rook to g6, you want to play put pressure on the black king. So pawn to f6, this makes sense, although it's, sometimes you don't want to play it here, it definitely makes sense. The queen is no longer as powerful on d4, and you don't have to worry about something like rook to g3, bishop to h6, and so on. So rook 8 to e1 by Fischer. And now he has plans of moving the bishop. He wants to, or maybe even bring the rook here to help out with the defense of the pawns. But also, as f6 has been played, Fischer no longer can really execute e5. And so he will move the bishop, maybe f4, maybe e5. Somehow he really wants to get it in. We have queen to c7. Bishop to g3, and now knight back to d7. We have king to h2, and now rook f to d8. We have rook 3 to e2, and knight to c5. Fischer repeats rook to e3, and Laszlo repeats knight to d7. And Fischer not really interested in a trade. He has to in a draw. He has to figure out how to continue the game. So here, queen to d3, remaneuvering the queen with tempo, as now the b5 pawn is hanging. Now the queen might be going to the king side. Rook 8 to b8, defending the b5 pawn, and now queen to e2. We have rook to b7, and now king back to h1. And the position might open up, so you don't want your king vulnerable here, and it's not like black can stop anything. If Fischer wants to play f4, e5, then he will do that. So knight to c5, and now Fischer waits no longer. He pushes pawn to f4. And the problem is, you don't really have a way of stopping e5. Even though you have sufficient control over the square, you just don't have enough control. Even with a move like rook to e8, e5 is still incredibly strong. You can just trade everything, let's say captures, and black's position is completely busted. Now white will win this very easily, as he has a lot of attacking potential here, and also he does have the passed d pawn. Also the queen is hanging. So it's not going to be easy to fend off the white forces. So after pawn to f4, we have rook to f8. Laszlo has a different idea. If e5 is played, then okay, he will claim the f file. Sorry about that. The f file for himself. We have pawn to e5 by Bobby, and now pawn to f5, not capturing here. Very interesting approach. And now, how do you continue this? This is a very, very tricky position where you could easily squander your advantage, and many would just push e6 here. But the problem with e6 is that after queen to e7, there's no good follow-up. It'd be great if you could play bishop to h4, you just can't. So that's why Fischer, before pushing e6, he played bishop to h4. He stopped queen to e7, and now e6, e7 will be incredibly strong. So here, how do you continue? Well, you could just wait. Let's see, if you play something like rook b to b8, then comes rook to c1. Okay, this could be a problem. The queen moves, then you push e6. Then white just continues pushing, and maybe black can survive this, but chances are that he can't. In the game, d captures on e5 was played, which may be giving up the central tension a bit too soon. But okay, you can't argue with a player as strong as Laszlo Szabo. So f captures on e5, and now pawn to f4. This is how he grabs the f file for himself. But now, even though there's only one move that's winning here for Fischer, it's not that easy to spot, as his rook is hanging, and there's only one square where the rook will not be lost, and that, of course, is the f3 square. So rook to f3, and now queen to d7. And now, how do you continue this? Bobby played queen to d2, just nicely, calmly defending the d5 pawn, preparing to capture on f4. If you really wanted to, you could just give up the d5 pawn. Let's say queen captures pawn to e7, and after rook d8, you capture on f4. Then this is also possible, but no point in risking too much. After queen to d7, Fischer just played queen to d2. We have queen to f5, and now pawn to e6. We have knight to e4 attacking the queen. Fischer just played queen to d4, once again centralizing his queen, and he was in this position. On move 36, that Laszlo Szabo resigned the game, as really there is nothing more to be done here. So how is it possible that Fischer played such an incredible game against such a strong opponent? Well, he was just that good. He's only up a pawn, but you can see that he has a passed d pawn, he has a passed e pawn, and even if you wanted to continue this game somehow, let's say go knight to d6, okay, you block the pawn, somehow e7 is coming. The bishop here is incredibly strong. Let's say rook to e8, because you can't really keep your rook on the f file. So rook to e8. Now comes rook captures on f4. You win another pawn, and after queen to d7, you can just play rook to e6, and very soon you will just resign this. For example, pawn to h6, you will play queen to e5, double up on the knight here, and now you lose a piece. If you defend, then rook to g4, and now you cannot defend checkmate. So I mean, this would be over very quickly, maybe even quicker than this if the game had continued. But of course, Laszlo decided not to put himself through any of this. So yeah, very nicely done by Fischer. I'm really enjoying the games from this tournament. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen any of the games in this tournament. I have no idea how. I've just missed this in tournament for my entire life. The Havana 1965 tournament, basically the Capablanca Memorial. So hope you guys are enjoying them. And if you haven't seen that masterclass Bobby Fischer played against Vasily Smyslov in round 1 of this tournament, do check it out. It will be the first link in the description below. It's just a mind-blowing game. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank James Eugene Cashman, Brad Roth, BulletChessThriller.com, John Malpass, and Phil Malthus for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.